Now let us go further. We were on the point of Shreya Singh's case. Just a minute. Hello. नाही झालं आता आता चालू झालं पहा. Okay. So what the court held that it is most basic human right. Now when there was discussion, the court found that whenever in a discussion there are three stages. The first is a mere discussion where people exchange ideas. Then after discussion of ideas, they come to some definite concrete theory. Then that is called a principle which they will advocate. So it enters the phase of advocacy. Then when they spread this particular advocacy, it is okay. But when this advocacy is spread in such a way as to incite people, then this incitement is a stage where bar under 19(2) will come in. So you have to see, when you analyze a particular case, when a client comes to you, that what stage of the publication has reached. Is it merely a discussion? Is it just an advocacy? Or has it entered the stage of incitement? भडकवणं ज्याला आपण म्हणतो, भडकाऊ प्रकारचा आहे का? दोन गटांमध्ये वाद होणार आहेत का? त्याची अशी टेंडन्सी आहे का? वाद झाला पाहिजे नाही, त्याची टेंडन्सी तरी अशी आहे का? So what the court is, it is at this stage that a law may be made curtailing the speech of expression that leads inexorably to or tends to cause public disorder or tends to cause or affect the sovereignty integrity of India, the security of state, friendly relations with foreign states. Why it is important to have these concepts in mind is because most arguments of both petition and respondent tended to veer around the expression public order. So you see, public order is a very vast term. How you define the public order? When you make certain speech, and because of the very inherent character of the speech, a certain effect is bound to be there in certain group. When there is such certainty, then definitely it tends to be offensive. So with the increase in social media, we find that the opinions are increasing. You will find people are sharing all sorts of ideas. If you open for 20 minutes, if you keep your WhatsApp closed and you open it, you will find thousands of messages have reached. Everybody is sharing his opinion because the media is now open. Everybody wants his voice to be heard. But while making that attempt, they are not aware of the legal boundaries. So therefore, as a lawyers, it is also our social duty to make the people aware and just make them aware to a level where they will be able to take their own basic decision, apply some basic test and see whether what I am posting, this post is going to reach any number of people in any corner of the world. And so what can be effect of those posts? Now recently you might have heard in the newspapers that just because certain people had posted something about religions, that aspect was tried to be exploited in the Gulf countries. Because your Facebook posts are available everywhere. So you have to take care of it. And I tell you, the countries which are specifically these countries like Bangladesh, they are very much afraid of this speech aspect. I'll just share with you a small experience that when I landed at Dhaka airport, I had gone there on the occasion of Durga Puja and also to meet the people around and see how the things are. The moment I landed, the immigration officer asked me, "Yes sir, what is your name? What is your occupation?" I said advocate. The moment I said advocate, that officer got in the chair. Immediately called to certain superior officer. I came and I sat in the chair. 3-4 people with the gun standing around me. I sat there quietly, nothing to worry about that, because I had gone with a visa, everything valid. So then they questioned me, what you are doing, this, that, again, same questions. I told them, I am an advocate, I have come here for the purpose of Durga Puja, because that was my purpose actually. And meeting people was secondary. So when they questioned me for about 25-30 minutes, then they asked me, are you connected to any human rights organization? And after questioning for about 30-45 minutes, then they let me go. So what I realized, that they are afraid of awareness and knowledge being brought to their country. So this is just to show you the strength of your thoughts. So as advocates, you are the champions of a cause, and you have to see that ultimate democracy rests upon how you project yourself, how you make the society, and how you uphold the law, and how you prevent misuse of the law. So here we are to discuss all these things, and in these connections, let us now see how the law is applied, how it is misused. I'll give you a simple case. There is a case of Indranil Khan versus State of West Bengal. The recent case of 2020. The matter came up before the court. What was that case? That this person, doctor, was an oncologist. Now he made several posts on the Facebook. What are the posts? The posts were concerning alleged deficient protective gear supplied by the government to its doctors attending COVID-19 virus that affected patients in the hospital. That was the post. He was putting that we are not getting these gears. He was booked. Why? The allegation was that there was a disharmony and feeling of hatred which disturbed public tranquility. So 153A Indian Penal Code. The person is booked. So once the person is booked, his SIM card and phone is also taken. See, he is a doctor. What he did, just brought to notice that these are the deficiencies. Nothing more than that. Even whatever he had mentioned, there was a reply from the Department of Health thanking him for bringing this fact to their notice. So the matter went to court, and what the court says, freedom of speech and expression, which is granted under Article 19 of the Constitution of India, has to be scrupulously upheld by the state. So what is supreme is Article 19. What is secondary is the fetters by subclause 2. If an expression of opinion brings the government into disrepute, now the wording used is disrepute. Certain actions of government are such that you have to criticize them. The effect of it may be that government is going to disrepute. That is not a concern. If there is a deficiency, government must face it. Then what the court says, if an expression of opinion brings the government into disrepute, it cannot defend this allegation by intimidation of the person expressing the opinion, by subjecting him to prolonged interrogation, threatening arrest, seizing his mobile phone and SIM card, and so on. It can do so if a citizen tries to utilize the freedom by trying to circulate alleged facts maliciously with a view to causing damage to another person or to the public at large or the nation. This could be done by necessary spread of fear and panic among the public for the above reason. So one simple post and he is booked. So what the court says, court directed the officer in charge to return the SIM card, return the phone. Not only that, even they did not allow him to be arrested, even not to be interrogated unless they seek the leave of the court. So court comes to protection immediately. So you can see that just with a simple post, the moment the government finds that no, it is not in their favor, they will try to hush up your voice. And here comes the duty of all of us to stand by to protect the right of freedom of speech. At the same time, curtailing the speech that will affect the stipulations provided by clause 2. Now let us come to another few cases in the recent times. One is the case of journalist Arnab Goswami, which you have been following, and one case of Advocate Prashant Bhushan. In case of Arnab Goswami, there has been number of FIRs at different places. Why? Because he aired his views on television about certain political party, which the party might not have liked, and he was booked. He moved to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court stayed all the other FIRs. The one FIR was transferred to Mumbai, and the sections that were put, they were 153, 153A, 153B, 295A, 298, 500, 5042, 506, 120B, and 117. Now you can see the reach of the sections. Most of you are dealing with criminal matters, you know what sections police put and whether they are applicable or not. And just to get those sections out of the charge sheet, how much efforts are required to be done. So the main agenda is whether the particular offense is made out or not. It is to see that there is a deterrent effect among the people, which is not a healthy sign in democracy. Recently, one more journalist of Zee TV has also been booked, and only yesterday I was seeing the comment from the senior most advocate Harish Salveji, and he said that all the attempts are certainly such attempts that it will not be in the interest of democracy to go on targeting the views aired. And Supreme Court, in the case of Arnab Goswami, let us see what the court has stated. The court has stated, firstly, the need to ensure that criminal process does not assume the character of a vexatious exercise by the institution of multifarious complaints founded on the same cause in multiple states. अनेक राज्यांमध्ये अनेक प्रकारचे केसेस FIR दाखल करायचे, घटना एकच आहे, याचा थोडक्यात उद्देश काय असणार तर प्रत्येकालाच कळतं, एव्हरीबडी विल नो. The need for the law to protect journalistic freedom within ambit of Article 19(1). Now we know that free press is so much important. It was the press of this country that shook the British. The famous case of Queen versus Bal Gangadhar Tilak, wherein due to certain publications, Bal Gangadhar Tilak was also charged with sedition and sentenced. We all know that cases. So the freedom of press is at the bottom as a pillar of democracy, and shaking that pillar will be giving in to a political system that will be autocratic. And therefore, even it is our duty to see that there is neither abuse of the freedom nor vindication or vexatious litigation against those enjoying this freedom. Then thirdly, court held the requirement of the recourse be taken to the remedies available to every citizen in accordance with the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, ensuring that in order to enable the citizen to pursue legal remedies, a protection of personal liberty against coercive steps be granted for a limited duration in the meantime. So what happens? You bombard a person with number of criminal cases. Thereafter, you take him in custody. So what happens? The person doesn't have any chance to mobilize his resources and seek legal assistance, seek legal remedies. And by the time he gets to the justice, the police have done their job. He has been put into jail and his career is tarnished. All those things happen. And therefore, now you can see the latest trend is that the judiciary is also now rising up to this occasion, understanding the real things behind the scene and coming to the rescue of the citizen who are booked in such a manner. Thereafter, at the same time, court struck a balance. How the balance was struck? The investigation of an FIR should be allowed to take place in accordance with law without this court deploying its jurisdiction under Article 32 to obstruct the due process of law. So court said FIR they will investigate. That's not a problem. Then assuaging the apprehension of petitioner of a threat to safety of the business establishment, the court passed the order. So what the court did, court allowed him protection, that no coercive steps will be taken against him. He was to cooperate with the police, and he was also given a police protection. Then second case we recently came to know, that is a lawyer from Supreme Court, Prashant Bhushan. Now what had happened in this case? He had made certain remarks about telecast of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now if there is a simple view expressed by a person that I don't want this particular serial to be telecast, sufficient. But while doing so, it appears that he included certain words which were considered derogatory by a person, and he filed a case in Gujarat. Now you know that any person having religious sentiment, whenever he comes to know of a facts and wherever the particular act is made and the consequences are ensued, then wherever the consequences are ensued, even at that place you can file an offense. So in Gujarat it was filed, immediately moved to the Supreme Court. Again Supreme Court granted him protection and says protection from arrest. So these two cases and the one upper about the doctor which we just narrated will show you what exactly is the nature of all these litigations, cases, criminal cases. Hardly anyone is going for civil case for libel or damages, because you know the civil procedure. In the criminal cases they get the immediate result, and so people are opting for that particular aspect. So now this being the case, let us now see what are various laws that restrict the freedom of speech. There are a number of laws. I'll just cite 15, 16, which would be main thing. The first one, you know that Indian Penal Code has number of provisions. Let us take a brief view. Section 124A, that you know that about the sedition. Then in sedition there is but one explanation which says that comments expressing disapprobation of the measures of the government with a view to obtain their alteration by lawful means without exciting or attempt to excite hatred, contempt or disaffection do not constitute an offense under this section. So whenever government is criticized either in its administrative capacities or the measures government has taken, that will not be an offense. But by making use of it, if you start inciting people to dislodge the government, not through ballot but by any other means of violence, then definitely that would be considered sedition. And also section 153, wantonly giving provocation to intent to cause riot. Then 153A is promotion of enmity different groups on grounds of, see these grounds are important, religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, and doing acts prejudicial to maintenance of harmony. So many different things. It is not just about certain religion, but even it can be on the basis of race, place of birth. So I always tell the people that whenever they are using the word, even the political parties using the words as per prantiya, I find that not proper. All prant of Bharat, they belong to Bharat. So they should be simply say that from the other administrative areas of the Bharat. So this regional approach has to be now given up. You have to say from the other administrative regions of Bharat. Then 153B, it penalizes imputations, assertions spiritual to national integration. 292 prevents obscenity. 294 prevents obscene acts and songs. Now about the obscenity, you will be knowing that it is very difficult to define obscenity. A judge had remarked once that I may not be able to define obscenity. But if you bring the matter to me, I can tell you whether it is obscene or not. So the practical difficulties in certain aspects are also very clear. Even law has its own limitations. Then section 295A IPC. It penalizes deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or religious beliefs. And 298 penalizes uttering words with deliberate intent to wound the religious feeling of any person. So the IPC sections provide again for the same safeguard which are there in Article 19(2). Then there are defamations 499, then rumors 505, 1 and 2, criminal intimidation 506, then affecting modesty of woman 509. So these are all the offenses which you know from the IPC. Now for 295, you know that whenever any offense is registered, investigation made, in order to prosecute the person, sanction under 196 CRPC is required. Without such sanction, so there is a safeguard. Merely because somebody airs certain views on religion, it should not be used to target the person, but government must apply its mind to these particular facts. And these offenses 295, they are non-bailable ones. Now Information Technology Act, the second in line is Information Technology Act. Now this is a new act, and if you find that many sections of IPC and Information Technology Act, they are just counterparts. Now here it is only when that same offense is committed in the electronic form, there is an enhanced punishment. Why? Because reach of electronic medium is far wide. You just cannot imagine how far wide that it can go to all countries everywhere. So therefore, when you make an analogy, the sections of Information Technology Act, we can say IT Act, and IPC, and just compare, you will find similarities, except that the offenses here, they are due to communication, expression in electronic format. So let us take a brief view of that. One is 66E about the privacy. That is the protecting privacy of a person. Punishment is 2 lakh rupees fine or 3 years imprisonment. Then you have 66F that deals with the cyber terrorism threatening. Punishment is imprisonment for life. 67 transmitting obscene images. Punishment is 5 lakh rupees fine, imprisonment 3 years. For the second offense 5 years and 10 lakh. Then 67A, transmitting sexually explicit matter, again punishable with 10 lakh or 5 years, second offense 10 lakh and 7 years. So you can see the seriousness of the offense when it is committed in electronic format, and the one under IPC of 1860 in a traditional manner. So now other laws which have come to light recently, when we see there was a COVID pandemic going on, at that time certain rumors were being spread. Somebody would give that today so many patients, tomorrow so many patients died infected. So that creates a panic. And to avoid that, there is a section 54 of Disaster Management Act. What it says that whoever makes or circulates false alarm or warning as to disaster or its severity or magnitude leading to panic, so spreading rumor about it, punishment is 1 year or with fine. Then Representation of People's Act, here also disqualification there under 123(3). What it prohibits? Promotion of enmity on the grounds of religion, race. So same earlier thing of IPC only, but in a different format, where if a candidate of election, if he makes certain speeches of this nature, then in that case there are certain disqualifications arising as corrupt electoral practices. Then you know that there is a Protection of Civil Rights Act, where by words either spoken or written, if you try to encourage any person, incite any person, generally to practice untouchability in the form or otherwise. So all these things are prohibited under these acts. Then there is a Religious Institutions Prevention Misuse Act 1988. It is also again the same about preventing hatred amongst religions. Now there is a Cable Television Regulation Act 1995. Here again there is a prohibition in telecasting such items which are prohibited, which are going to incite the communities. Then there is a Cinematographic Act 1952. Here you have to obtain censorship certificate, where again all the tests will be applied to the film to see whether it promotes enmity, hatred, something of that sort. Then there is a Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986. Here also, as the word suggests, there had been a growing tendency of subjecting the human body to being projected in a vulgar manner, and that is also prohibited. It is a offense and it is made punishable. Then there is the Emblems and Names Prevention of Improper Use Act 1950. You know that our emblems and names, which have got a certain value, a certain sanctity, if you try to misuse them, that is, you express them in a different format, ridicule them, then again that is an offense. And then there is a Dramatic Performance Act. So just as you have censorship, you have for the purpose of dramatic performances, again similar conditions, that it should not incite any class hatred. Then again 19(2) applies. Then there is a Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisement Act 1954. So you cannot advertise any drugs and magic remedies which are forbidden by this particular law. So you can see the scope of your speech is limited by so many acts, and even unknowingly you may say something which can go against the law. So therefore basic knowledge of all these laws is very necessary, so you can formulate your speech properly. Then there is a Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989, which says that whoever intentionally insults or intimidates with intent to humiliate a member of scheduled caste or tribe in any place within public view. So that is such a type of utterances, expressions are also prohibited. Then there is a Prevention of Insult to National Honor Act 1971. That means the national flag, if it is misrepresented, if you express something against that, if you prevent somebody from singing national anthem, then that is an offense. Now here you see, we'll just take a pause. Certain thing you are having right to express, but somebody prevents expression of that right. You have right to sing national anthem at a particular place, somebody prevents that, so even that is made an offense. Then comes the Contempt of Court Act 1971. You know that whoever tries to bring court into disrepute by any words, then the court can take cognizance, civil contempt, criminal contempt of that sort. Thereafter, lastly, I come to one more act, that is the Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987. That means whoever tries to glorify sati and try to incite someone to commit sati or to praise such particular custom, then even that is made an offense. So these are the basic, just a point about 16 acts I could lay hand on, which are basic to understand the scope of this particular provision. So these particular acts, I request you to go to the main sections, take out certain important case laws and that, make a note of it and keep it handy so that you can always use it. Now coming to definition of what constitutes hate speech. So it is a very loose term. Now as a lawyers, we always are called upon to deliberate and give new dimensions to the words. Whatever was view of the court 10 years ago, same view may not be there today. Things change. So law is dynamic. It is not static. The views will go on changing because the situations change. The psyche of the people which was 20 years ago will not be same as 20 years later, and therefore whatever the laws were there, whatever the interpretation of the same law was there, in the light of changed situation, court may interpret it in a different manner. Now let us see in a very specific words what the court has stated. This is the case of Pravasi Bhalai Sangatna versus Union of India. The court stated about the hate speech. What is the hate speech? The hate speech court has stated in this Pravasi Bhalai Sangatna, hate speech is an effort to marginalize individual based on their membership in a group. So very first is marginalize individuals. Secondly, using expression that exposes the group to hatred. Hate speech seeks to delegitimize group members in the eyes of majority, reducing their social standing and acceptance within society. Hate speech therefore rises beyond causing distress to group members. It can have a societal impact. Hate speech lays the groundwork for latter broad attacks on vulnerable that can range from discrimination to ostracism, segregation. Ostracism म्हणजे समाजातून बाहेर काढणं थोडक्यामध्ये. Segregation, deportation, violence, and in the most extreme cases to genocide. Hate speech also impacts a protected group's liability to respond to the substantive ideas under debate, thereby placing a serious barrier to their full participation in our democracy. म्हणजे काय की एखाद्या समूहाला इतकं खच्चीकरण करायचं, त्याचं इतकं नामोहरण करायचं, त्याच्यावरती एवढे आक्षेप घ्यायचे की त्या समाजाला कुठलं काही बोलायची संधीच ठेवायची नाही. अशा प्रकारे या समाजावर दडपण आणून त्याला एका प्रणालीतून बाहेर ठेवायचं आणि अशा प्रकारे त्याला टार्गेट करायचं, या प्रकारची जी कृत्य असतात, दॅट इज द हेटफुल स्पीच. Thereafter, there was a case of Ramesh versus Union of India, AR 1988, Supreme Court 775. What the court says, आता कुठलीही गोष्ट असेल, what I say certain things, चार माणसं आहेत, दोन माणसं कुठल्या प्रकारे घेतील, दोन माणसं कुठल्या प्रकारे घेतील, they will interpret in their own manner. So what the court says, standard कोर्टाने काय लावायचे, how the court should come to a conclusion that this particular speech, it falls under what category, what is the standard. So what the court says, that the effect of the words must be judged from the standards of a reasonable, strong-minded, firm and courageous man, and not those of weak and vacillating minds, nor of those who send danger in every hostile point of view. म्हणजे ज्या माणसाला त्याची सक्षम विचारशक्ती आहे, समोरच्याचे विरुद्ध विचार पण सहन करून घ्यायची शक्ती आहे आणि एका सुदृढ प्रकाराने वादविवाद करायची क्षमता आहे, अशा माणसाचं स्टँडर्ड हे कोर्टाने विचारात घेतलं. म्हणजे एखादे शब्द जेव्हा विचारात घ्यायचे असतील, या शब्दांनी काय होऊ शकतं, whether these words will tend to hatred, the court will view it from that standard. काही माणसं असतात त्यांना मी थोडं काय म्हटलं, they will take it in a wrong way. So not that way. Now finally we'll take one case of conviction and some other small cases. Now this was a case under 153A, 124, and that is the case of Babu Rao Patel versus State of Delhi, AR 1980, AR 763. What happened in this case? The person published two articles. One article was a tale of two communalisms, and the second article was lingering disgrace of history. In both these articles, though they were styled as historical articles analyzing history, the aspersions were cast among two communities, where one community was said to be descendants of certain other community which ruled and which committed lot of atrocities. This was the basic tenor of that particular article. And what the court says, that feeling of enmity, hatred or ill will between different religious groups or communities cannot be promoted in the guise of political thesis of historical truth. Means court will go into the details of your thesis and see that whether it is purely an academic thesis or under the guise of academic thesis you are trying to portray something else. So that means what court will see is that substance behind, the thought process behind, and not just the title. So therefore, to make out an offense, court will go into the aspect of what ultimately is the intention and a veiled message behind your publication. So therefore, this particular case assumes significance where the conviction was upheld. Then there was a case of Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar, 1962, AR 955. Now here was a case where the person, maybe of a certain political party, he made aspersions on ruling party. Then he called on for revolution. Then he criticized the Bhudan movement. Those who are aware of Bhudan movement, it was started by Vinobaji Bhave, where he traveled throughout Bharat and he asked the people with surplus land to donate their land, which could be distributed to the poor people. So even that was criticized and various loose terms were used. And ultimately, the court convicted him. Supreme Court also confirmed the conviction in this case. And what the court held in that? The analysis of this Parallel 124. 124 analysis, court resumed to disaffection word, and then court also referred to the case of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and it held that though no disturbance is brought about words or any feeling of disaffection in fact produced by them, it is sufficient the purpose of the section that the words used are calculated to excite feelings of ill will against government and to hold it up to hatred and contempt of the people, and that they were used with intention to create such feeling. म्हणजे एखादी गोष्ट बोलला, इन्साइट लोक झाले नाहीत, म्हणजे परिणाम दिसला नाही, परंतु त्या शब्दांमध्ये इन्साइट करण्याची शक्ती होती. असं असेल तरी देखील कोर्टाने धरलं की हा गुन्हा ठरणार आहे. Thereafter, court referred to the case of Queen Empress versus Bal Gangadhar Tilak. What is that? Court says that the offense as defined by the first clause is exciting, the attempting to excite feelings of disaffection to the government. What are feelings of disaffection? I agree with Sir Komar Pedem in the Bangobasi case that disaffection means simply the absence of affection. It means hatred, enmity, dislike, hostility, contempt, and every form of ill will to the government, disloyalty. Now you see, this was the case of Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was against the British Empire. So certainly, whatever analysis was done at that time, now that analysis will not prevail now, because now the government is government of Bharat. So certainly, when it was British India, things were different. When it is an independent country, things are different. So these earlier things, the same formats not be now used, and the views are changing on this point, analysis will be changing, and the test will be different. Thereafter, the court also held that there are two possible interpretations of the law. So therefore, harsh interpretation will have to be avoided, and the soft one will have to be taken, which goes according to Constitution. And so what the court held that, as already pointed out, the explanations appended to the main body of the section makes it clear that criticism of public measures or comment on government action, however strongly worded, would be within reasonable limits and would be consistent with the fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression. It is only when the words written or spoken, etc., which have the pernicious tendency of intention of creating public disorder or disturbance of law and order that the law steps in to prevent such activities in the interest of public order. When you cross the limits, only then the law will step in, not for small infractions. Again, referring to other decisions, courts held that the sections imposed in these cases as to limit their application to acts involving intention or tendency to create disorder or disturbance of law and order or incitement of violence. So unless you show from the words used that look, these words used have the tendency to create disorder, disturbance of law and order, incitement to violence, only then it will be covered under the mischief. So all these sections, acts which have been carved out. And lastly, I will turn to one more case, that just if a person simply says that don't pay taxes to government, whether that will be offense. So that question came before the court in Superintendent of Central Prison versus Ram Manohar Lohia, a 1960 case. What the court held, that in this case, the limitations imposed on the interest of public order to be reasonable restriction should be one which has proximate connection or nexus with the public order, but not one far-fetched, hypothetical or problematical or too remote in the chain of its relation with the public order. म्हणजे एखादी गोष्ट बोलला, somebody utters certain words, then the connection should be direct connection with the incitement to offense, not something remote. It may happen, it may lead to, not such habitual things, but it has the tendency, it has the potential. That potential should come before the court. And then the court held that we cannot accept the argument of the learned Advocate General that instigation of a single individual to pay, not to pay tax dues is a spark which may in the long run ignite a revolutionary movement destroying the public order. So this is what the courts have held, and in all these circumstances, courts have tried to balance the right and the duty, and it is for us to see that we come out with certain discussions, suggestions. Now Law Commission is also sitting on the aspect and now suggesting improvements in the act, and now when such cases are increasing, there will be definitely some other amendments to see that the misuse of the law is prevented. At the same time, people would also use the medium sensibly, and with all these things within such a time, I am thankful to you for giving me this opportunity. Thankful to the committee, member of our Bar Council, and all of you for listening. So if you have anything to discuss on this, we can discuss, not now also, now or even now. If you have questions, you can raise. Subsequently also will be available. This will be a discussion, as we know that we are in the process of continuous education. No lawyer can say that I have studied the law entirely. Every day we are studying, and the moment we stop studying, we are no more lawyers. And therefore, I wish all of you to keep up your studies. This is a time where we have to brush up all our knowledge. Just like a warrior, even in the peace time, he has to do the exercise. So similarly, our weapon is our brain, and we have to see that we polish it every day by reading new things, analyzing new things, discussing ideas, and putting up advocacy for better things. Thank you very much. There is a question from Leena Pradhan Gurav, advocate. Can you please share your views on social media trolls and the recent complaints filed with Mumbai Police Commissioner against them? Now you see, we know that the trolls, when they have the tendency to invade your privacy, then definitely under the IT Act, you can file complaints. In case of political ones, things stand on a different footing. In case of personal ones, placed on different footings. So therefore, in case of political trolls, the tolerance limit is more. In case of personal trolls, there cannot be a tolerance limit. Even if few trolls are there, you can immediately file a complaint. Anything else? I'm not getting the comments here. Yes, I am not getting your comments. Any comments are there? Just see, there is a live question editor. You can just put your questions in that if it is possible. Or you can just give me a call on the phone also if you want, on this 77383 65281, because I'm not getting the comments here. Hello. Hello. Okay. Hello, please. I'm not getting any comments in this particular. So I would, you can just post me, and then accordingly. So I think with this, I take your leave, because I am unable to get the question answers panel open. So you can just post me the questions, whatever, we can discuss them later. Thank you very much.